Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of Scruf's Garage. Today for a change we're going to do just a quick video. I'm not working on the Corvette today. Today I'm working on my wife's 2006 Acura TL. The headlights have some pretty significant oxidation, so we're going to hit it with one of the headlight lens renewal kits. The one I have here is from 3M. There are several companies that make these. They're all essentially the same principle anyway. You're removing the oxidation from the headlights. So here's what you get in this kit. It's reasonably complete. There's one additional item I'd recommend getting. We'll talk about that in a second. The first thing you're going to do is tape off around the headlights. So they include some masking tape so that you don't burn your paint with some of these sanding discs. Once you got those taped off, then you've got 3 different sanding discs. So this one is a 500. These are the tan ones. They're a 500 grit sanding disc. Then you move to an 800 grit sanding disc. That's these white ones. Then this one, I think they call it their Trizact. It's a 3000 grit sanding disc. And then you finish it with this orange pad and the rubbing compound. The sanding disc all attached to this applicator pad. This goes into the end of your home drill. It kind of speeds up the process, so you're not doing everything by hand. I think you can get one of these kits where it's just the same items but without this, and it's designed for hand application if you didn't have a drill. So anyway, we'll jump into it and we'll see how well this works. Alright, here we go. We're going to start. You want to clean the headlights before you get started. I mean, even though you're getting ready to sand these, anything you can take off now just by a normal cleaning is less material that will clog up the sanding disc as you get into that. So this is just some auto glass cleaner. We're just going to clean this area. Alright, it's summertime here in North Carolina, so things evaporate very quickly. This will be dry in just moments. Alright, I'm going to start taping this off. I won't make you watch all of this, but the goal is to make sure you cleanly tape off around, all of your edges, because you're going to be coming in with this, you're going to have a sanding disc on this, but as you bump any of these edges, you want to make sure you don't burn the paint or take the paint off. So I may do 2 layers. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I got the headlight that I'm going to work on taped off. I did double up on the tape, a couple of the corners where I feel like it's going to be a little bit tighter, and in an effort to get into the tight corners, there's a good chance I'll touch the body panel. So anyway, so we got the adapter piece in my cordless drill, and we're going to start with the tan sanding disc. And like I said, just smooth, even strokes across the headlight. You want to keep it moving. Don't use too much pressure, and you can use just a bit of an angle. It doesn't have to be dead center, but you want to keep it controlled and work a section. Don't necessarily have to do swirls, but we'll just start working this, and then we'll clean it off, and we'll see how it's going. That's the first section. I'm going to work on the rest. I won't make you watch all of that, but you can see it starts creating quite a bit of dust already, so making progress. And of course, as your sanding disc, if you find that it's beginning to smear, or you get distinct scratches, it may be that something's gotten caught in the pad. They include several replacement sanding discs in the kit, so change them out as needed. Okay, so I just finished with the 500 grit sanding disc. Actually, I went over it twice. So I wiped it off once and I decided to make a second pass at it. This is the part of the project where it gets worse before it gets better, but don't be too concerned about that. Just use a microfiber towel and just going to dampen it just a bit to get all the dust out. So you'll see, if this is the first time you're doing this, as you start working with your drill, how easy it is to catch the tape. So you'll appreciate having done a good job taping off all the corners as well as you can. Just be mindful, really pay attention to, you know, all sides of the sanding disc. You know, as you're working down into a corner, don't just watch this side, but, you know, watch the bottom as well. That way you don't get into the paint and cause any damage there. I did change out my sanding disc one time. It seemed to have gotten fairly clogged the first pass, so I'll be able to use this to start the other headlight, and then I'll probably change the pad again for a final pass on the other headlight. But anyway, so we're going to take this one off, set that to the side. This is the 800 grit sanding disc. Put that on there, and we'll get started on that again. And you notice I've got my drill on the low speed setting. It does have a high speed setting, but it's not necessary. And if you go too fast, it puts a lot of heat into the what's essentially plastic. It's polycarbonate. You could actually begin to melt the plastic, which can affect the optical clarity. So don't go too fast. Don't feel like if you turn up the drill somehow you're going to accomplish this any faster. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay. Finished making the second passes with the 800 grit sanding disc. So wipe it down, see how it looks, see if there's anything we still need to touch up. Definitely coming along. Even as you run your hand across it, you can tell it's noticeably smoother. Should be nice and even. Shouldn't see any areas that are more heavily sanded than others. Shouldn't see any deep scratches. Okay, so I think we're ready to move on to the next step, which will be the gray 3000 grit sanding. Grab my drill, and this one has to be wet, so I'll hit my spray bottle. I'll keep this wet, and then I'll spray some on the pad as well. And you can spritz a little more on there. If it starts drying out. Alright, made a few passes with that 3000 grit disc. So we'll wipe this down and see how we're progressing. At this point, the scratches, right, that came from the 500 and the 800 grit sandpaper, you're smoothing those out now with the 3000 grit. And of course, there's still a final step with the rubbing compound as well. But what you're looking for is just to make sure you don't have any significant scratches. These should be pretty thoroughly blended at this point. Nothing should stand out particularly bad. If not, if they do, go back and hit it, one more time. It's not going to hurt anything, but you want to make sure you get it right. Okay, so we're finished with the 3000 grit sanding disc. So at this point, we're down to the orange buffing pad and the rubbing compound. So I've got the orange pad on the drill, and we're just going to do a dime-sized amount of the buffing compound. And just like you would if you were applying wax to a car or something, you don't want to turn this on while it's still, you know, puddled up on here to sling everywhere. So use the buffing pad, kind of spread some of that compound around a bit before you turn this thing on. And then of course, when you turn it on, make sure you have the pad against the lens. If you have it off, it's going to sling stuff everywhere. So initially I just kind of spread some of the buffing compound around a bit, and then we'll start making our passes back and forth. Decided to add just a bit more rubbing compound to my pad since I spread it out so much. Okay, so I made my first pass with the rubbing compound, and then I wiped it off. It's truly amazing how much improvement there is. I really study it. I doubt you'll be able to see anything on camera, but there's some ever so fine scratches. Really, honestly, it's probably good enough, but I may make one more pass with the rubbing compound just for good measure. Okay, I made one more pass with the rubbing compound just to clean it up just a bit. And if you get the light just right, you can still see maybe some very, very fine scratches, but the improvement in optical clarity for these headlights is truly phenomenal. It's certainly well worth the work. The one final step is protecting this so it doesn't oxidize quite as quickly as it did last time. That's the step missing out of this kit. I think 3M offers some other versions of this kit that does have a glass protectant in it, but for whatever reason the kit that I bought lacked that last step. So I happen to have, this is a company called Pinnacle. It's a glass coat window sealant with rain repellent. So I'm going to use some of this to protect this. It goes on, then we wait 10 minutes or so for it to dry. Certainly this heat, it won't take very long, and then we buff it off. But it just it helps fill in any porous surfaces, and like I said, it's got a little bit of a rain repellent in there. It's not that big a deal for headlights, but you could also use it on your windshield if you wanted to. Okay, we'll give that 10 minutes or so, and then I'll buff it off. But just while we're doing that, I doubt you'll be able to see much of a difference between before and after with this, but you can see how clear this is. And then here's our before. Pretty awful. Here's the after. Amazing. Before, after. Certainly well worth the work. So thanks for tuning in to this edition of Scruf's Garage. I hope this was beneficial, whether you apply it to your Corvette, Acura TL, or whatever you're working on. And if you enjoy these, like and subscribe. It lets me know that you're enjoying these, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.